Rich Sander here with Moral Misfits. Today we're here with John Rafferty. He's the editor of the secular newsletter Peak. And today we're going to pique your interest on some secular news and talk a little bit about Bait&Switch today. And so welcome to the show. How you doing, John?
I'm doing pretty good, Rich. Getting bored as hell in lockdown, but fine, like everybody else. Look, alive and safe.
It's good to see you, and there's certainly a lot of things to talk about. But I think the idea about doing Moral Misfits is really to talk about humanistic ethics in a kind of a fun way, and talk about secular values and, why we're an atheist or humanist and secular and science-based. I think a lot of people would like to know those things and try to understand a little bit more in depth. And hopefully this show, we can do it in a fun way. And we can also do it in a way that's going to be interesting. And people will find, hey, I didn't know that, or I didn't understand that. Oh, this makes sense. But we also hope that people will eventually be able to get together and to hang out with each other. We'd like to do a permanent show on Sunday nights where people gather, hang out, socialize, get to know each other, then watch our live show on Sunday nights, and then hang around afterwards. And hopefully that'll help them create community in their own areas and also be able to enjoy each other's company and watch a little bit of the craziness that we actually end up doing. So that's what I'm hoping we do. And that's one of the things I liked about New York was the secular community there. And hopefully we can find ways that everybody can enjoy each other's company in other places throughout the country and do it in a way that's non-religious and easygoing and fun and relaxed. I think we need a lot more of that in our society these days, don't you think?
Absolutely. And of course, everything you're mentioning here is exactly, to use an old phrase, right up my alley. This is what I love. People tell me every once in a while, why don't you shut up about humanism? So here's an opportunity for me to do exactly what you said. Maybe just have some fun and talk about humanism and the values of humanism in an interesting and, I hope, amusing way. I'm all for it, Rich. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. So we're going to start off with a subject called Bait&Switch. You like that? Title?
I do like that title, and I know the story you're going to tell. So why don't you tell everybody about your mom in Ohio?
Well, I think it's important that people understand that there are certain things about humanism and secular ethics, because I think they do exist, and I think that there is a commonality that basically transcends, or it doesn't really matter who you are, if you're a believer or not a believer. There are certain things that are kind of universal. And this idea about bait and switch, there's other terms out there, overpromise, underdeliver. Those are terms that I think that a lot of people are familiar with. So if we talk about bait and switch, I think we can dovetail that into secular ethics and saying, that's a universal kind of value that we can say, okay, we don't like bait and switch. It's not a good way of acting as a human being, and it's not good to other people. And it's not something that we like to see, whether you're in the United States or Canada, Mexico, China, Australia, Luxembourg, wherever it is, wherever you are, it doesn't matter. That's happening. And I was joking around a few minutes ago before we started the show. Is like, I think ever since people have been pulling mangoes out of the tree, they've been doing bait and switch. I'm going to give you the best mangoes. And they're saving the best mangoes for themselves, and they're giving their neighbor the second best mangoes. But he's telling them it's the best mangoes just because they want to make them feel nice. But the story goes is I was talking to my mother the other day, and she's moving to a condo, and she likes carpet. I don't like carpet. You know, I much prefer tile or hardwoods, but she likes carpet. And she was telling me a story about her and my dad moved 19 times in their life. And one time they were moving into a house and it needed a lot of carpet. So they went and picked the carpet. And when they showed up to start laying it, about an hour into it, she noticed something strange about the carpet. And so she went and got her sample that she had picked up from the store and compared it to the carpet that they were delivering and installing. And she says, "This isn't the same carpet. The weave is not as good. It's not the same carpet. This is a lesser quality carpet." And she made them take it all back. And she went into the store and talked to the sales guy and said, "You know, why are you sending me this other carpet and stuff?" And after talking to her for a while, the guy admitted to her, which I thought was amazing, admitted to her he had put the order in for a lesser quality carpet. So the other day, my mom is telling me that she's going to move into this condo and she wants to get a new carpet. And my brother's there while they're installing it. And she thinks back to that story of where she almost got ripped off for a whole house full of carpet, 40 years ago or something like that. And she said to my brother, it's like, "Why don't you check the carpet to make sure it's the same as the sample?" Because he actually had the sample on her hand. And sure enough, the carpet was an inferior carpet. It was not what she had paid for. It wasn't the sample. You can turn it over and look at the weave and just notice the difference right then and there. And the salesperson wanted to pull over this inferior carpet to an 85-year-old lady, thinking she's not going to see the difference. But my mom's a smart cookie, and she is able to figure that out. So I thought it was kind of funny that my 85-year-old mother, pulled one on this carpet company. I mean, they're a well-known brand. They've been in Columbus forever, and they didn't. They get away with that. If they can get away with it, they can get away with it. So it'd be interesting to talk a little bit more about, is there a way that kind of stuff can stop? If do we need government to help stop that kind of things going on? Or is it more of an objectivism? It's like buyer beware, if enough buyers are aware, then that will stop. Or is it really just up to the individual person and they're just, they're going to get what they get, and, some people are going to be suckered or whatever. But it's kind of interesting to talk about that, because I don't know what the exact solution is, but I do think that there are solutions to stop that kind of practice. But, what happens in car dealers,
Yeah. Well, car dealers is what I was thinking about. But specifically to the question you raised just now, is government intervention necessary? Absolutely. Because the fact of the matter is there are always going to be dealers who prey on unsuspecting consumers. And buyer beware is not good enough, because in many cases, for instance, in this very sentence, your mother didn't notice it until about an hour into it. And then she said, "Oh, let me just check something." But it might not have happened. She might have trusted this company that has been in business in Columbus forever, as you put it. She might have said, "You guys all set? There's soft drinks in the refrigerator. I gotta go to the dentist." And she goes out, she comes home, and it's months before she realized this thing on my floor is not wearing properly. It's already fraying, and that's what might have happened. There's gotta be, so your mother's a smart cookie,
Yeah.
and she found it. But remember that she's one person and she's working against a corporation. And then there's the problem of the corporation that is a mega corporation. And how do you deal with it? So there's got to be government intervention. And that's what a representative democracy promises us that we will be together and we together can solve our problems, but it means that we got to protect ourselves from the bad guys. Now,
Yeah.
in this case, what they tried to do was actually criminal because they took our money for one thing and started to deliver something else. That is actually fraud. That's criminal. The basics, as you know, I spent most of my life in the advertising business. So, I've come across bait and switch a few times. And one of the things I learned was that the concept, the phrase bait and switch came from where else? The used car business, of course, right? And there, it's not quite so criminal.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, it's technically not criminal. But what a car dealers used to do, and probably still do, is place an ad in the local paper. They put their ad in every weekend, and a terrific deal. 1-year-old used car, low mileage, owned by a little 85-year-old lady who only drove it to the bank and then blah, blah, blah. Okay. And it's a terrific price. Anybody would know. It's, oh boy. So off goes the customer to the car dealership. It walks in and the salesman says, oh God, I wish you'd been here half an hour ago. I just sold it. It just went out the door. You might have even passed the guy when you were driving in. And he waves a check. I just got the check. And it's a check for his electric bill, but so what? He's just waving a check in his hand. So, but while you're here, I'm sorry you missed that, but I got another great deal. And he takes him out to the lot and he shows him some thing from the hunk of junk company. And the customer says no. And he says, well, I got another great deal, until finally he sells him. Now that's not criminal because he hasn't taken any money.
Yeah.
He's lied.
Yeah.
But he hasn't taken any money.
Yeah.
So it's not quite criminal.
Well, even for moralistic ethics, the way the person is acting is insincere and it's not truthful and it's not honest. I think that when we talk about moral misfits, we're really talking about those ethics, so that what people are doing in terms of how they're personally acting, how government is acting. Are they doing things in a non-corrupt? Are they doing their jobs as they're supposed to be doing their jobs? And as business people, are business people acting? I mean, there's certainly a lot of very good businesses. They're very conscientious about what they're doing, but there's certainly a lot that are not doing their job and lying to people. And I agree. The way that they treated my mother was against the law, and she didn't want to file or put a review in until she gets her carpet. She didn't want to have any backlash or whatever. But
I hadn't thought about this, but again, my buddy from when we were in first grade, he and I were in the Army at the same time. And we got out and we were both back to college, and we got an apartment together. And so we went to a furniture store and we bought 2 single beds, more cots, couches, so that they'd be a couch in the daytime and beds for us at night. So this was like middle of the summer sometime. And we said, we want to move in September. And it said, absolutely, don't worry. You'll have this in 2 weeks. 2 months later, we're in small claims court because they haven't delivered it yet. Okay, delivered them yet. And the attorney for the store actually is telling the judge, come on, salesmen promise anything. What the fuck? Why is this going on? Why? Don't be silly. We all expect, in other words, he was saying, we all expect to be lied to. The funny part of the story is, it's early, it's like the first week of October now, right? And the judge has got a portable radio on his desk, and he's listening to the World Series. He's listening to the World Series and only half paying attention to the whole case. And he listens to these guys and says, oh, shut up. Give them their money back. Period. End of story. But there again, as you said, most businesses are run decently, as most people. One of the tenets of people ask me, if you don't believe in God, why do you have any morality? And I say, as a humanist, I believe most people are decent. The overwhelming majority of people are decent. They don't cheat. They don't lie, except, it doesn't make you look fat at all. Yeah, okay, fine. It makes you look fat. All right.
Yeah, well, we talked about some examples about where people are acting inappropriately and doing things that are wrong. And then, this whole idea of bait and switch or overpromise, underdeliver. And obviously we talked about these companies doing this. What about government? I mean, government is politics, I think, is probably the king of overpromise, underdeliver, bait and switch.
I think the premier example right now is the so-called tax break that we all got during the first few months of the current administration. Am I allowed to say his name? But, there was this big, oh boy, and we're all getting, some people, working class and middle class people, they're getting hundreds of dollars back, or they're even getting a few $1,000s back, or taken off their bill. Oh, it was terrific. And, and thanks to us, you're getting this wonderful break. True. We all got it. What? That was the bait. Because the switch was, and I know I'm stretching it a little bit, but nevertheless, the millionaires got millions back. Difference being, ours was one time, theirs is forever, until, I hope, a new administration. But the millionaires keep getting the same package, and we don't. So the bait was, and by the way, the media that was against Trump back then, they all fell for the bait. The headlines in the Washington Post, in the New York Times, on MSNBC, on CNN, all these outlets that were anti-Trump, nevertheless all said the same thing. Middle class to get relief. Well, wait a minute. In paragraph 37 of the story, it said, and people making over $1 million a year will get even more, and will continue to get more. So that's a form of bait and switch.
Yeah, John, I think also with government in that bill, there was a promise that trickled down economics, that the money that the individuals and corporations who were going to get most of that money back were going to turn around and invest that in American jobs. And the switch was they took that money because it wasn't allocated to creating jobs. It was just not taxes collected. So the corporations took that money that was now not collected and used it to buy back stocks, vast majority of that money. So it was clear that there was a bait and switch going on there,
Yeah.
that it did not allow for that money to get to people and create jobs. It did not create jobs. And a lot of the corporations said that. They said, we just bought back our stock with that money to create value for our shareholders, which are mostly the people that are upper echelons in management of a company. So it just enriched themselves a second way. And I think back to that whole argument that the Republicans were saying that this is going to be good for the economy. And I think that, and it's really super bad for the government, because if you talk about billions and billions of dollars that go back or not collected, that it ends up being money that government can't spend. So if you say $1 billion goes back to one individual because they're no longer collecting that taxes, how much can the government do with $1 billion? They could help an awful lot of states fund shelters for homeless people. So you're basically saying, I'm not going to collect that much more taxes because I'm not going to use that money in a good way.
Yeah. Yeah. The fact of the matter is that the money that comes from the government to the community enriches the community in many, many ways, because you create, that's where the money goes. People have money in their hand. So I am not going to put off buying shoes for my kids. I'm going to buy shoes today, and I'm going to take them to McDonald's, and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, which means that there is money coming into the stores in the community, which means another store opens, which means that this store hires another person, which means that it flows. Excuse me.
Well, I think if anybody's earning under $40,000, they're pretty much spending everything that they've got. So if, like my brother once told me, it's like, we got to find a way to have the average Joe and Jane make more money. Because if they make more money, and let's say they're, instead of 40,000, they're 50,000, they're still going to spend that $10,000.
Oh yeah.
They're going to do that, and have that money change hands in the economy creates a bigger and better economy. And if you're talking about, millions of people doing that, that is certainly much better than not collecting $1 billion from one rich guy.
That's right. No question about it. Now, by the way, going back to what you're talking about the big so-called tax break that we all got, that on the surface, you might not call that bait and switch, but it really was bait and switch, because this was not something that the administration did and, a bunch of corporate officers and billionaires and everything said, oh, look what we found. Thank you very much. No, bullshit. Excuse me the language. But it was work together. This was the politicians and the rich working together. The politicians telling us, the consumers, this is what we're doing for you. And then switching the emphasis of the whole thing to the rich. So that's bait and switch also.
I agree, and I think that it's also very important that we, as people who are reasonable, people that are science-based, people that say, okay, there are important ethical instances that we should talk about, because if we don't talk about those things, the side that we oppose wins. They win by us abstaining, by us not talking about it. And I don't think we talk enough about that kind of stuff in our society. And I certainly don't think that it's a way for people as a whole to say, we hold these things to be self-evident. And we hold these things dear and true to us. And we need to vote that way. We need to interact with each other that way. And that's why I think that someday, in some way, that Moral Misfits can be place that people can gather, hang out, talk, become friends, be jovial and nice to each other, and create communities in whatever city that and suburb or township or parish that they're in, that they can hang out and watch us for a little bit, but then they also hang out afterwards. And that's my hope for Moral Misfits. And, today we had a little bit of fun talking about Bait&Switch. And I think we endeavor to do something a little bit more and better. And I hope you join me along this this journey, and we can talk about many, many more subjects in the future. And
Absolutely, Rich.
It's something that we're going to bring other people in, because I think that there are a lot of people out there that are looking for something like this. And we are social animals. So finding a way to be social and doing it in a nice and kind and jovial and accepting way is important. And right now, with the country divided and a good chunk of the world having problems, it's needed. And we as atheists and humanists and secularists and science-minded, we got to speak up, and we got to have more things like this to be able for us to go out to the rest of the world and say, hey, we're nice people. These are great ways of living. Whether you're religious or not, these are values that we all share, and we need to practice what we preach, so to speak. So
yeah.
I want to thank you, John. If you out there have not had a chance to see the Peak secular online, is it online? It's online, right?
Yes. As a matter of fact, anybody who wants can get Peak. Peak is the newsletter of the Secular Humanist Society of New York. If you would like to receive it, send me an email. Send it to editor@shsny.org. Editor@shsny.org. And I'll be delighted, because it doesn't cost us a nickel to send you something online. So we've got a terrific issue right now. If anybody wants to, it's anybody, if you want it right now, you'll have it in 5 minutes. Just send me. Well, of course, what you've got to do is you've got to send me your name and your email address. Yep. Remember that I might look at it and say, but I don't know who Huggy Bear 493 is. I need your name. Okay.
Well, and I really think that that's a good service that you're providing and spending a lot of your own personal time. You don't get paid for it. And you're really pulling together a lot of secular news and sending it out on a weekly basis. It's amazing what you're doing. And I hope that most people get to read that. And we at Moral Misfits, we're going to cover some of the subjects there. So if you're going to have an opportunity to talk, have a chance for us to sit back and forth and talk about the different subjects that you come up with on the Peak, and that'll be definitely a source for us going forward. And for you that are at home watching this, you're probably watching it on YouTube. Like, subscribe. Down below, we'll put a link down below for editor@shushni.org, and we look forward to seeing you in the next time we get together.
Okay.
So, I'll see you later, John.
All right, you too, Rich. Stay well.